Welcome back to RK9 Rides. In my last video, I looked at Segway's CES 2025 video where they revealed all of their new third generation electric scooters. In that video, they kind of only gave us a few key bullet points about each scooter, and they didn't really give us a lot of information about the specs. But now we have the full specs and information on all the scooters on their website, so I wanted to dive into each scooter. So today we're going to be starting with the Max G3. I've ridden both of Segway's previous Max models, and I liked them both, especially the Max G2. I think that was a fantastic scooter at the price, one of the best scooters that you could get around that $1,000 price point. And so I'm really curious to see how they're going to build on that with the Max G3. So let's jump right in. I really haven't looked super closely at the specs other than what you guys have commented on the last video. So I know a couple things about it, but I'm curious to see kind of what the big changes are with this. So you get Apple Find My, which was already available. Dual hydraulic suspension, which is something that we saw in the video. Dual disc brakes. I love to see that because so many scooters at this price go for drum brakes because it's a little bit of a cleaner look, and I assume they're also cheaper to make, but the stopping power and the kind of different variability in how much you can press the levers, and also just the responsiveness and how far the levers need to travel in order to activate the brakes is so much better on disc brakes than on drum brakes. You get UL certification, which is, going to be standard and is something that you expect to see, especially from these big brands. So 28 mile an hour top speed, that's insane. I would have thought that maybe they would have gone up to a guaranteed 22 miles an hour or maybe even 25 miles an hour, but seeing 28 miles an hour on this scooter is insane. I mean, that puts it into like class 3 e-bike territory. That also puts it into kind of a scary speed. Once you get up to those speeds, a crash can cause a lot of damage. I've crashed at 25 miles an hour, and I luckily was wearing a full face helmet when I did that, or else I would have seriously damaged my jaw because I slammed the front of my helmet into the ground. So kind of what I mentioned in the last video is that I liked the fact that the Max G2 was about a 20 mile an hour scooter, because then you could justify just wearing a half helmet and it was more commuter friendly. With this speed, as much as I like to see a higher top speed, I also think it kind of takes it a little bit further away from that like practical commuter choice. Now, again, I think that is where the F3 is going to step in. And I will do a video on the F3 and the E3 and talk about kind of the future of the entry level scooters from Segway. But this is definitely kind of pushing more into performance territory. I think they're kind of trying to spread out their scooters a little bit, so you have a clear distinction between each one of the scooters, which is something that I did talk about in my last video, that I thought that the F2 and the Max G2 were a little bit close in purpose and in comfort and speed and that kind of stuff. So the more I think about it, the more I feel like this top speed makes a lot of sense. It's claiming 30% climbing slope and 2,000 watts of max power. I assume it is a rear hub motor here. Let's see. Yeah, definitely rear hub motor, which I like to see. I mean, I don't think they would have moved it to the front, but rear hub motor is just always better if you're going to have a single motor scooter. 2,000 watts of power that is a lot. I feel like you rarely see single motor scooters that push this number. Like once you get to around 1,500 watts, that's when things kind of transition into dual motor. 2.4 seconds 0 to 15 acceleration is great. And I would guess that's going to be about a second faster than the scooter under it, than the F3. We talked about this Segway airlock and kind of my thoughts about that in the last video. They're claiming a brighter lighting system is one of the key features. It looks like you're still going to need a handlebar mounted light or something on your helmet. We covered this display in the last video, but I think that if it can integrate smoothly with Apple Maps and Google Maps and that kind of stuff, then it will be useful. And if this is the same display that I tested on their e-bikes last year at E3, then it's going to be super bright and super visible, and it's going to be a really great screen. They're claiming 50 miles of max range, which is a 7-mile bump over the Max G2. I would imagine that in the highest riding mode, you're going to get closer to about 25. If you could eke out 30 miles in the highest riding mode, I think that would be absurd. Anything around 20 to 25, I think, is more than enough for a scooter like this. We'll have to see if this is an increase in battery size or if they've just made the battery more efficient using their advanced algorithms like they talked about in their CES video. Okay, so moving to this section of the website, it looks like it's only with boost mode that you get that acceleration. So I imagine that's just going to be a short period of time. Like usually with Segway, it's something that you have to activate. And typically it's an annoying process to activate it. Typically you have to do something like hold down a button in the throttle for a certain period of time, then it activates boost mode, or something that you might have to do with the app. So we'll see how annoying it is to activate boost mode, see if it's just a button or something like that. Maybe it'll show us further down. Okay, so here's the seg range that they talked about, the advanced algorithms that give you more battery life. So 597 watt hours. They really don't like to tell you the voltage on their scooters because typically it's lower than average. You would kind of expect 48 volt battery at this price, but it's probably 36 or potentially even smaller. Let's see if we can work it out once we get down to the specs section. But I'm quickly just going to see if the Max G2 had a similar battery size. Okay, so the Max G2 is 551 watt hours. The Max G3 is 597 watt hours. So that's about a 10% larger capacity battery with about a 20% increase in range. So theoretically with this, then the seg range algorithms are giving you about 10% more range than you would otherwise get with the same size, theoretically. Again, this is something that I'm going to have to put to the test once I get my hands on the scooter. Okay, next bullet point here is dual input charging, and it looks, based on this, now I don't know if this is connected to a brick or if they did the thing like they did with the Max G2 where the inverter is inside of the scooter itself, so all you need is a cord. That's what it looks like here. It says it goes from 3.5 hours to 2.5 hours. So you're not really doubling your charge time, you're, reducing it by an hour. Now, oh yeah, second charger sold separately. Probably not worth it just to cut it by a single hour, but I guess that's cool to have. Okay, no information here about how much travel, but it does look like they've gone to dual stanchion, like a fork instead of just a single post suspension. So hopefully that's given them a little bit more space to add a little bit more travel. But I mean, the suspension that the previous Max G2 had was still great, and you could really feel the difference in that hydraulic suspension. So hopefully adding that to the back will help keep the tires really planted and avoid kind of that springy, bouncy feel that a lot of scooters at this price that don't have hydraulic suspension have. Here's the rear. Says it's adjustable, soft, hard. So I imagine this is not rebound adjustment, which I would have liked to see some rebound adjustment so you could dial in how fast it uncompresses so that you could adjust it, based on your weight. This looks like just standard preload adjustment. 11-inch tires. Okay, that is something that I didn't expect. That's huge tires. That's interesting to see them going to bigger tires. It's actually something I asked for years ago, that these lower end tires would start embracing the larger sizes. And now, 11-inch tires is something you used to only see on the biggest, beefiest scooters. And now you're getting 12-inch and sometimes 13-inch tires on those bigger scooters. You get the self-sealing tubeless tires, which is awesome. I love to see them integrating this type of technology. It's, something really simple, but as soon as you have to change a tire on a scooter or make a repair, like, you realize how valuable not having to worry about punctures can be. It says seals punctures up to 4 millimeters in diameter, that's super impressive. That's like a full-on nail going into your tire. Ooh, they kind of tease it here, but it looks like these handlebars are back towards the rider. That's interesting. Oh look, we get a little preview of the directions you get. So you don't get like an actual map up on here, which would have been really nice to have a little map with the directions. It looks like it's also going to give you an estimated time remaining on your charging, which is nice if you're someone that charges your scooter in short bursts. I don't think that's super relevant for most people. I think most people are using their scooter and then they're plugging it in and charging it for longer periods of time. But just the fact that it can charge up in 3.5 hours and will tell you how much battery is remaining and how close you are to being able to ride will be good for people that maybe need to use their scooter in short bursts often and need to, charge it often throughout the day. Okay, we already covered all of these app things in their reveal. So we get some new underglow lights, which they say flash with the turn indicators, which is really nice. That's going to be awesome for nighttime riding. Every time that I've ridden at night, my biggest fear is not being seen, and I'm always overly cautious. And I still think that's a good thing to be cautious, but this, gives you a little bit more peace of mind of like, okay, the cars are going to be able to see me. I'm going to be able to signal my intentions to them. During the day, typically these indicators aren't as visible, especially something like underglow. But for night, that's going to be awesome. Automatic headlight automatically turns on and off. Again, we'll have to see how bright this is. 6 watts. I mean, that doesn't really tell me anything. I like lumen numbers. I like to use at least 1,000 lumens of light in order to see properly when I'm riding. But even like 2,000 or 3,000 lumens, I feel like is necessary if you're riding in really dark conditions. The headlight angle is also adjustable, which I really like to see because sometimes they're mounted solid and you can't adjust that. And I'm pretty sure on the previous model, it was mounted solid. Again, front and rear disc brakes, love to see it. I think disc brakes should just be the standard. They're not saying that they are hydraulic, so I assume they're just cable driven, although maybe they might be hydraulic. I feel like that would be something that they would say. IPX6 water resistance, so that should be totally fine in the rain now. It probably was fine already, but this is theoretically, according to the IP rating, something that you could literally leave out in the rain. Okay, the Segway stability enhancement system. This is another thing we talked about in the last video where they're selling it like some sort of technology, but I think it's just geometry here. Handling. The curved handlebar provides a comfortable grip. Oh yeah, so they talked about more about the handlebars coming back towards you. Here's traction control. This is something that was available on the previous Max G2. And like I talked about in the last video, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to have traction control with a single motor scooter. I did try it with water to see how it reacted, and it more just made the motor kind of jerky. Like it wouldn't let you just like floor it. It would try to like find traction before it spun again, but maybe it's gotten better. I think it makes more sense on dual motor scooters, and that's something that hopefully they've integrated into the GT3. And then something that I like is that they've put the wheel off axis. Let me see if I can find a better, yeah, right here. Okay, so the way I like to think about it is, like shopping cart wheels, like caster wheels, they're kind of off axis like that. So when you push them, the wheel will naturally stabilize back towards the back of the cart. And so when you have the majority of the wheel trailing this axis here, then you're going to naturally get more stability. And that's something that for years I've looked for in scooters. That's like one of the first things you look for. And I've had multiple scooters that have arrived and I've looked and I've gone, like the axis will be behind the scooter. And I'm like, I just know this scooter is going to be unstable, and I'm almost always right. So that seems to be what they're talking about with their stability enhancement system. Is just that they've actually considered the geometry and tried to make a stable ride, which is all things that every scooter company should be doing. And I don't necessarily think needs a Segway trademark on it. More marketing stuff, but this is relevant. 286-pound max payload is going to be awesome. That's going to fit the majority of riders, even big dogs, as my friend Ramier over at ESG likes to say. We already talked about the new aesthetics and the new look. I actually like it. I think that it's good when scooter companies carve out a niche for themselves, makes them recognizable, but that's just more me looking at it from a marketing standpoint. Do I personally love the design? I could take it or leave it, honestly. This whole thing going on, I don't know if that's actually adding any sort of reinforcement, but it definitely is a unique look. Okay, here's a top-down look of the curved handlebars. That's not too aggressive. I actually like that. I think that's going to be great. Oh, here we go. Okay, I just was wondering about this. I guess that makes a lot of sense. It gives you a really clear place to lock up your scooter. I actually like that, okay. And then there's a deep dive into the specs. Let me look real quick and see if there's anything notable here. So the top speed out of the box is 20 miles an hour, and that's probably the mode you're going to want to ride in if you're just planning on commuting with this or wanting to just wear a half helmet. Anytime they say you have to enable something via the app, I get PTSD from New's awful app experience, and honestly Segway isn't much better. We'll see if they do the new thing where you have to do a tutorial and prove you know how to ride the scooter before you enable the high speed. Oh yeah, here's all the claimed ranges. So eco mode. Oh, I also did, when I re-watched the presentation, I saw that the 50-mile range was them on flat ground in ideal conditions going 9 miles an hour. So I assume that that is the eco mode top speed. No one's riding 9 miles an hour. If you're having to ride 50 miles on a scooter, like, you're just better off trying to find another way to transport yourself. I suppose if you really can't charge for a period of time and you need the max range. But this one is what I really care about, this Sport Plus mode. And like I said, they're guessing about 25 miles. We can assume that they've probably slightly overestimated. So if you can get 22 to 25 miles of range, I still think that is fantastic for the scooter. And then here's the weight, 54 pounds. Again, about what you would expect. 50 to 60 pounds is kind of what you would expect. That's very carryable, maybe not for an extended period of time, but with two hands, if you needed to lug it up a few flight of stairs or need to carry it onto a train or a bus or something, very easy. There we go. There's the deep dive look at the Max G3. I think it looks like a great scooter. They haven't revealed the price as far as I can tell. I think on their store, they only have the base model of the GT3 available for pre-order, but I would guess that the initial launch price would be around $1,200, maybe like $11.99, maybe $12.99, and then they put it on like a sale or whatever, that $10.99 or $11.99 range. So thanks for watching. I'm going to dive into the GT3 in the next video, and then we'll look at the F3 and E3 together in the video after that. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.